I made the siyum last week. I missed it. The last line of Peah says that we'll start with the last quote. Rabbi Yaakov Shem Rechina said, "Kini masnisin." This is what the Mishnah means to say. Kol mishu tzarich litov eino notel. Anybody who needs to take money and does not, he's a murderer because he does need the money. Therefore, he should be taking stock of. Also, lisrachim alei alav. You're not allowed to have pity on him. Al mafshelo chayis. If he did not have pity on himself, a chorani lo koshki, he's certainly not going to have pity on others, and therefore he's considered to be a cruel type of person, not worthy of support. V'komi she'eno tzarich litov. Someone does not have to take money. V'notel does take money. Eno meis min hazikna. And takes money. Eno meis min hazikna. He doesn't die from old age. Actually, tzarich until he indeed needs the money, and he's punished meter connect a meter of having fake people out. Somebody who does not need the money that much. In other words, he's oppressed, but not completely underwater, and he doesn't take money. So for him, it's a bracha. Eino meis min hazikna, does not die of old age. Actually, until he merits supporting other individuals. And this it says, Baruch HaGever sheyiftach b'Hashem v'Hashem yiftacho. Bless the person whose trust is in God, and God is his trust. Hadron Loch Peah, and we'll start Demai. Okay, Demai is a Masechta which concerns the issue of things, fruit and vegetables, where the Amaratim are suspect not to have taken Maisers off. Truma they for sure take, but Meiser they didn't take off, Meiser Rishon nor Meiser Sheni, and by association, of course, Truma's Meiser, which is a derivative of Meiser. So therefore, when the person, the chaver, takes the fruit from the Amorit, he's supposed to take off the Meisers from the Peros which he has just acquired. Now, the thing is that the Rov...
The Meiser he's taking off is strictly the Meiser Rishon?
No, Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni.
He does take them?
Does take off Meiser Sheni, except Meiser Sheni is redeemed, but he does have to take off Meiser Sheni as well. The most Amoratim were Meiser. They did take off Meiser off their produce, so therefore there's certain kulos which which we apply to Demai, again, because based on the Torah principle of Rov, the whole issue of Demai does not arise. Here, Demai is based on the principle of Choshesh in the Miut, that we are taking into account the Miut. Normally we're not Choshesh in the Miut, only Rabbi Meir is Choshesh in the Miut. So this is a takana of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. I think he's the Kohen Gadol, ironically enough, later became a Tztoki in life. But this is the takana he made earlier, and therefore it's a takana, a decree, which transcends the issue of whether we pass him like Rabbi Meir or Rabbanan in all other cases in Shas. So therefore we have this Mishnah, which tells us, Hakal and Shabbat Mai. These are things in which even though they're Demai, one could be even more lenient than normal, because these are things the Gemara is going to tell us which normally grow hefker. Okay? Tomorrow we'll say that, we'll see it in a few minutes, but first let's see the Mishnah. Hakal should Demai, things which are lighter, even in terms of Demai. Hashitin are the fruits which are called shitin, Varimi, Rimon, this is not pomegranate, it's something else. Vahuzdarin, Ubno Shuach, Ubno Shikma, Venovlos, Hatamara, and all these things will be discussed in the Gemara. Vagufnim, Vanitzpe, Yehuda. Gufnin and Nitzpe in Yehuda are considered to be Kal and Shibetmai. Ha'og Vachometz Vakuspera. And all these three commodities, Rabbi Yehuda Meir, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Shitim Beturim, all Shitim are exempt, Chutz Mishel Dufra, except for the sheeting of a dufra tree, a tree which makes fruit twice a year, which is especially good, and therefore it's not one of the college of the Mai. So too, all rimin are exempt, except for the rimin in the Shikma, which is a town. No Shikma Paturos, and all but no Shikma Pater, which is not the town, but rather a fruit of a sycamore tree. It's exempt Pater, Chutzin and Mustafos, except for Mustafos, which is a certain higher form of this fruit. Rabbi Yochanan said, why is all these fruit exempt from Meiser? They only grow wild. Now, since they only grow wild, not all of them. Now, obviously, there are a minority which are cultivated, but since for the most part they grow wild, they're exempt from Meiser. So therefore, when they're Demai, you have a double kula, right? A, that they're Demai to begin with. B, that that most of them grow hefker, which is exempt from Meiser regardless. That's why Chachamim enumerated them. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, will come out a very interesting thing. According to Rabbi Yochanan, comes out, although the Gemara doesn't make it explicit, but it will become apparent that even if they're vadai, they're exempt.
Where's the double kula?
It's not a double kula. Right? The Gemara will make that clear in a few minutes. That really isn't a double kula. That it really is based on the concept that even the vadai will put there. From here, we might have thought from Rabbi Yochanan that it's a double kula. In fact, the Gemara is going to say it's not a double kula. Let's see that. Rosh Shimon Lakish Omer Lo Shona Lo Demai. Shimon Lakish says, no, wait a minute. It's only if it's Demai it's exempt. Avo vadai chayovin, but vadai is not chayiv. And now the Gemara reveals its hand. Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo Shani Bet Demai Ben Vadai Peturin. Now, the kasha Rabbi Yochanan, it's obviously difficult on Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Because it says in our Mishnah pretty explicitly, Lo Shanu Elo Demai, right? It says, although Lo Shanu Demai means our Mishnah mentioned Demai. Our Mishnah didn't say anything about Vadai. So how can you say that even Vadai is exempt? It seems like it's only Demai. How about Vadai Chayovin, right? Amar Rebbe Law, so Rebbe Law said, Lefisha b'chol makom u'makom l'chashil Demai. Because the whole Masechta, in all places in the Masechta, it's only dealing with Demai. So that's why it said Demai here, but really it applies to Vadai as well. Okay? It happens to be in Masechta Demai. So there it says Kalin Sheba Demai. But really it is indeed a misnomer. It means Kalin Sheba Vadai as well, according to Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan holds that the majority of these fruits grow hefker, so therefore they're exempt from Trumas and Maisus altogether. Okay? That's his fundamental principle, and it doesn't make a difference if it's Mai or Vadai. And so in fact now it's Reish Lakish who argues, who says it's specifically a parameter of the Mai, not a parameter of Vadai.
And this is saying even after the takana of Rabbi Yochanan?
Even after the takana of Rabbi Yochanan, of Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Yes. Now, Masnisa Messiah Rabbi Yochanan. We have arrived for Rabbi Yochanan from subsequently in the Masechta. Subsequently in the Masechta it says Miksivu Lahalon Potter Mirat Mai. It says from Ksiv and northwards. Ksiv was the outer. We know this from Masechta Gittin in the Bavli. Ksiv was the northerly limit of the land of Israel. So from Ksiv and northerly is exempt Mirat Mai. So again, the Gemara says, "V'shani miksiv la'alam bedmai ben vadai." Is there any distinction between northerly of Ksiv, between vadai and Demai? Of course not. Ksiv is outside of Ksiv is outside of Eretz Yisrael. Uvhacha. So just like there, even though it says Demai, there's no distinction between Demai and vadai. Uvhacha lo shani ben Demai ben vadai. So too here, there's no difference between Demai and vadai. Now, there's a subsequent Mishnah which argues on Reish Lakish. Masita Bliga Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish, as you recall, it seems to be in fact the one who holds to the principle of Tarte Litivusa, right? That you need to have both, that it's Demai and that it's also not Nishmar. Well, there's if that's the case, you have a Brisa later, or a Mishnah later on. Masuras Shas says where it is. And hey, Tosefta, it's a Brisa. But Tosefta Paragraph says, Imayu Nishmorin Chayovin. It says that if the fruit is nishmar, it's chayev, right? So it sounds like, well, if that's the case, nishmar means that people cultivate it, they domesticate it, they raise it as a crop. It sounds like the whole parameter here, the whole crux of the issue is whether it's nishmar or hefker. Yikohen lo min hefker in boyin. So it sounds like the flip side of that is that it's hefker. So it sounds like the only issue involved here is whether it's Nishmar or Hefker. If the only issue is whether it's Nishmar or Hefker, so in that case, it should be the same whether it's Demai or Vadai. If it's Nishmar, it's Chayiv. If it's Hefker, it's exempt. Right? That's the only criterion on which the matter hinges. Okay? So that's the Kasha Reish Lakish. So Pasar Law, so he said, Reish Lakish would resolve this, Acharov Nishmarim. No, it goes after the nature, not it goes after the nature of the fruit. In other words, the nature of the fruit is that if it's a fruit which is rov nishmarim, then the halacha is in that case we have to be choishish for demai.
So you're saying it's only halacha by by Ruth, that word is Rov Nishmarim. Rish Lakish is this. Not that Tosefta is talking about Rov Nishmarim, but Rish Lakish's din is only by Rov.
No, but he has to interpret the Tosefta that way as well. He has to say a Tosefta which said that if they're Nishmarim, then it's Chayev, right? Which sounds like the only issue is whether it's Hefker or Nishmar. It's saying more than that. It's saying when it's Nishmar, then it falls into the parameter of Demai. And then I have to take off Meiser's Misofe, because maybe the Amoritz wasn't Meiserin. So really we don't look, let me make that a little bit more clear. According to the way the Brisa was read originally, so the question is whether this specific fruit is Nishmar or Hefker, right? Now, right, exactly. Now we're looking at the min. And therefore, if we look at it as a min, which is Rov Nishmar, it doesn't matter whether this specific fruit is Nishmar or not Nishmar. If it's from that type of min where Rov Nishmarim, then it has an issue of Demai. If it's a type of min that Rov are not Nishmar, so that you don't have to be Chayshish to Demai. Am I making myself more clear?
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the implication is
right.
He doesn't really care about this.
Doesn't care about this specific fruit. So it comes out according to Reish Lakish. Perhaps it's a very great chiddush, perhaps even greater Rabbi Yochanan. If this fruit is nishmar, it still can be exempt from Demai. This specific fruit, let's say this Amar decided he's going to be Shomer, Shiti, and Rimin, and Uzduradin. But they're right. This Talamid Chachome part to this min from the entire concept of the mind. Okay? Asel Chame. Let's come see. In other words, let's analyze this Machlokas Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan to a greater extent. Ima Rov Nishmarin. If most of the fruit of this type is nishmar, so then then it should be that this fruit, everybody agrees, both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, that it's going to be chayev in demai, right? Certainly, because that means rov nishmar. Ain't a rov nishmarim.
If the rover is not nishmar, in that case, in other words, most of them grows wild, not domesticated. Everybody should agree it's exempt. So, bein vadai, regardless of it's my vadai. Mechza. Do you want to say that the whole machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is where it's half on half? In other words, exactly half the world is shomer and exactly half the world is not shomer. Leis yachil. You can't say such a thing. Now, I'm not sure why not. But the Gemara is now going to give us a different spin on Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish.
More about Basra. Somebody says,
Mechza, Rov and Korov, right? What do you do with Mechza?
It has to do with 50 amos from the Shovet.
Yeah.
The person said, what happens if it's Dafka?
If the Rabbi Yirmiyah is one of the base matters. It threw out for a Mechza question. Okay, it could be. So the Tnina, so we're going to say that the Machlokas is in the following case. It's on the case of the following Brisa. Mechza Demai. It says Mechza is Demai. Now, it says Rabbi Zera said you should know this brisa is lo sof dover college Demai. It's not talking about the college of Demai. The case of our Mishnah. It's Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish is about this brisa, where it says Mechza is Demai, but it's not like the case in our Mishnah. And the Gra takes out the next word. I think it's the Gra, who's Zafilu. Ella, rather it should be Ella Demai Atzmo. They're talking about not by college of Demai, but Demai itself. What's the machlokas? Tani, we learned, it's talking a case of mechza, but not by college of Demai, it's talking about the following case. Tani nichnas liyusharuba akum. You came to the city, the majority of which are going. Suffolk, rov mishamin, Suffolk ain't a rov mishamin. So in that city we have a Suffolk whether the most of this type of produce is safeguarded, is domesticated or not. Divrei HaKol, everybody agrees in that case, and here the Girsa change as well. The Rash Siroleo changes the Girsa. Divrei HaKol Peturin, not Chayovim, but Peturin. Everybody agrees in this case you're potter. From a Jew. You bought it from a Jew in Amoritz. But it could have been grown by Goyim. That's the point. That's why it's potter. Because even if it would be Nishmar, maybe it's not, right, maybe it's no chiyuv altogether. Okay, so, however, what about the opposite case? Nichnas divrei kol peturin Again, it should be ben Demai ben Vadai. Nichnas, even if it's a Vadai, you can assume that it's grown by a goy. Nichnas here Sheruba Yisrael. If you went to a city, the majority of which is Jews, Safek or Mishamin, Safek or Rom Mishamin, here you have a Safek about the nature of this produce. Divrei Hakol, in this case, again, the Rashi related changes the Girsa, but Divrei Hakol Chayovin. Everybody agrees in this case it's Chayev. Ben Demai, Ben Vadai, whether it's Demai or whether it's Vadai, again, because we have a case here we have to assume it came from Yisrael, and therefore you have to be Machmir and assume that it was Mishumori. Safek of Akum Safek Rov Yisrael. Well, what if everything's 50-50? Or you don't know, actually, to be more precise. You're Mesupik if Rov is Akum Rov Yisrael. You're Mesupik Safek Rov Mishamin Safek and a Rov Mishamin. On this Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. This is the Machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan said, in this case, you're exempt. In a case of Safek, you're exempt. And Rabbi Shimon Lakish said, in this case, you are chayev if it's vadai and potter if it's demai. So the machlokas Rabbi Shimon Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is not in our Mishnah about Kalin Shabbat Demai. It didn't concern that Mishnah at all. It concerned this brisa. A case where we have a suffix where the Rov and Misharim are not, in the city where it's a suffix whether Yisrael is fake, you would ask, right?
Yeah.
That's a fake. Yeah, but the problem is that, again, we have to bear in mind that the whole issue of Demai is a Chumrah. Right? In a case where there's a Rov. Right? Nonetheless, Chazal Aser Demai. So therefore, the normal tools to resolve fake, such as fake, might not apply. The thing is, though, you do raise an interesting point because I didn't think of it until you asked the question. But the Achronim do ask a shaila whether fake is better than Rov or not better than Rov. And here you don't see a clear resolution, but here you see that fake seems not to be better than Rov because here we're saying that it's fake and Rov both can generate a chiyuv of Demai. It seems. But of course, that would only be that although we would have to then think about that, because maybe that's only true according to. No, here fake is better than Rov. Just a minute. Here, because according to Rabbi Yochanan here, there is no chiyuv whether it's mine, whether it's vadai. And even according to Reish Lakish, who holds there is a chiyuv, it's only going to be a chiyuv by vadai, not by demai.
Okay,
so you see fake is better than Rov.
So you see that fake, even according to Reish Lakish, is going to be potter
from Demai. Even though Rov doesn't potter from Demai, fake does potter from Demai. So here we see a very good raya would seem at first glance, again without analyzing it to its greatest extent, that fake is better than Rov. A suffix, honest suffix, is better than a Rov. Okay, this is a very classic yeshiva shekler. Okay, says the Gemara, getting back to our Mishnah and the etymology of the words in our Mishnah. What are shitin? Rabbi Shimon Breder, Rabbi Abba Amar, Elu yotzes mitach mitach zalin. There's some sort of figs, but they're figs which grow underneath the leaves, and they're poorer quality figs as a result. Ha-bechoros v'amsuyafos, harelu pturos. Now, I assume it's the Bryce, so it says here, it's Yetzet Tosefta, bechoros and mesuyafos are exempt from Dmai. Eluin ha-bechoros, what are bechoros? Ad shlo shiv aleim shomer alein. And before the crop which grows in your field, before you put out a shomer to watch them, that's considered to be hefker, and therefore, if it's Demai, it's exempt, right? Even though it grew cultivated in your field, in the Amoretz's field, nonetheless, since there was no shomer out to watch them, therefore they're considered to be a hefker, and therefore they're exempt. It says more of a shomer out over totally. Does it have to do with a shomer? What does it have to do with that? Just because he's an idiot, didn't watch his fruits, it means it's hefker. Rabbi Yosef said no, it means it's she'ein b'hem kedei tipu shomer. It's talking about not fruit, it's talking about their lousy fruit, and therefore nobody would spend the money to put a shomer on them. That's why they're hefker. Okay? So it's talking about a case where the fruit itself was so lousy that nobody would be shomer them. Okay? So in that case, they're exempt from the chiyuv of Demai. Ve'elein mesuyafos. What are mesuyafos? Mishi kaplu amiktzos once they fold up the knives. In other words, once they're no longer harvesting fields of figs in the field, all the knives for harvesting are put away for the season, so it's also considered to be hefker. And again, in those figs, there is no halacha of demai. Okay? Rabbi Loi, Mishum Rabbi Eliezer says, Ha-b'choros harelun chayavos. He argues and he says, b'choros, those fruits which come early in the field, I assume b'choros means the ones which come early. And he says that it seems to be a machlokas in Metzius. He says they are chayiv in the mai. Why? Because they are safe kept. In other words, people do send the shomer out to watch them. Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta Omar, Hashitin shebetziporin, so to shitin, these poor figs which grow in tzipori are chayavos, they are chayiv because they are safeguarded. So it really is a question of metzius, and it could be relative in different places depending on who's mishamer or what. There would be different halachos concerning the various different types of fruit. Okay, nistaifu sadeu hatenim. Now let's say all that's left in this field is the lousy figs. They've already cooked, they've folded up their knives, they're no longer harvesting figs. But he still has a sherman in his film ne'anovi because the grapes are harvested later. So he's not mishamer his soda anymore for the figs, but he's mishamer his soda because of the grapes. Anovim, where the grape harvest is finished, but he's watching his field because there's still vegetables growing. So what's the halacha in that case? So that's what I'll tell you. If the pole goes in and starts raiding the food, and the Baal Bais is makir to them, asuros mishum gelu, they're forbidden because of theft. And by association, I say, despite the fact they're misuyafos, since the Baal Bais still evinces some paid on people going and eating, therefore it's clear that the fact that he's watching them for the next crop allows the first crop, even though it's basically finished, to be piggybacked, and it's not considered to be hefker. Okay, so where's the mind in that case? Okay, says the Gemara. Ula Rabbi Shmuel says Ula Rabbi Shmuel said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan the following ma'aser, that Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, both of them nichnasu lochol. Now I'm not sure exactly what's going on here because it seems that Rabbi Yochanan is part of the ma'aser too. So I guess it really should be Ula Rabbi Shmuel said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that he and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda nichnasu lochol b'msiyafos. They went to the Mesiyafos because they held these were hefker fruits, right? They're late in the season. They're Mesiyafos. The Tzavach ben Ashoymer, this watchman of the field started shouting them. He said, "Get out of our field." So Tanoim, going in the field. So Mashach Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Yodaf, man. Rabbi Yehuda took away his hands. Amar lo Rabbi said, "Why? Echol, eat. Shekvanis Yashu Bailing, man." The Rabbi, the owners are ready. It's the shomers being overzealous. The Bailim have already given up hope. That's what he's saying, right? The owner no longer wants them. Rabbi Yochanan, boy. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rebbe. Rebbe was his Rebbe. Tzavach v'atomar achein. He's shouting you, and you can say that. Rabbi Yochanan said, Yosu Makshe. So Akuta Kasha Rabbi Yochanan is asking on Rebbe.
The assumption is...
Rebbe's assumption was the Shomer does not represent the Baal Bais. That was Rebbe's assumption. That may be. But nonetheless, if the Baal Bais was Misyoish, the Shomer cannot reverse that Yeush.
The Yeush is only a presumption.
I grant you that, and that's why Rabbi Yehuda says it's a good Kasha. But Rebbe's Havmin is not outlandish. It does make sense, right? His Hamin is that the owner was Misyosh regardless of what the Shomer says. Okay? It says more, V'amastika Nisa Pliga. The following Brisa argues on Rabbi Yochanan. What does it say? It says, Ba'aseya Ve'zova Koranis. The Seya is a type of fruit. He has the Pnei Moshe has Yiddish and Arabic translations, so I don't know exactly what it is. Let me see if he says here.
Tosaf Rid on the bottom?
Yeah, the Tosaf Rid is the Ridbaz. The Tosaf, it's not our Tosaf Rid. It's the Ridbaz's Tosaf. This is the Ridbaz's Rashi, and this Ridbaz's Tosaf. So the Tosaf Rid is the Ridbaz. Does he translate them? No, he doesn't translate what they are. All right, but he says these are types of crop which grow wild. However, they can grow in your chotzer, right? Whatever they are, they grow wild, but they can grow in your backyard. I guess like crab apples, right? If you watch them, they're chayiv. Says Gemara, well, what does that sound like? That only if you're chotzer in your back, well, you be chayiv in Gaza, of course, and by extension, you're chayiv in Demai if you buy from Amoritz, right? I feel nishmorim beturim. It sounds like if they grow in the gina, so even in nishmorim, they're potter. But dafka, if they grow in your chotzer, are they chayiv in Demai, and are you chayiv in Gaza if you eat them? But if they grow in a gino, which is a garden, which is further removed than a yard, so in that case, it sounds like they're even in their nishmorim, they're exempt, which is a raya like Rebbe and against Rabbi Yochanan, because it seems like we have a case where it can be nishmar, yet nonetheless you're not chayev to the Baal Bayis. Even the Baal Bayis can be showing them, but it's like Batla Daito Itzakolodam. We don't pay any attention to him, so it's even a higher notch than over here. Over here we said the Baal Bayis is mityosh, even if the Shomer wasn't. But here, even the Baal Bayis himself is not mityosh. We say tough luck. Says the Gemara, that's different. Tamon yochulu amar lo harei kolom kula fanecha. There, in that case, where the Azov and the Seiya and the Azov Karanis are growing in the Gina, so the person says to the Baal Bayis or to the watchman, he says, look, this is something which grows everywhere. There's nothing special about your tree. So therefore, your shmir on it is a bunch of baloney. You don't really mean to be shomer because it's not something which has any significant value to you. So, I don't pay attention to you. But in the case of Rebbe and Rabbi Yochanan back here, there was it was a tree which wasn't so prevalent, which didn't grow wild all over. So it's a misuyafos. It's the end of the season. But it's a tree which is grown and cultivated for its fruit on a domesticated basis. So there, the shomer could say, so you can say it's one basket which I'm watching for my master. In other words, there you can say these fruits are special. I do need to grow them especially, and therefore I'm keeping it for my master in reserve. And there his peda is legitimate. Tani, we learned. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda said, "Hanoivlos lousy dates, hanikorsim which are sold with good dates, harei lepturos they're still exempt from Demai. Why? Because even though regular dates are meshumar, the lousy second-class dates are not meshumar. So the more now wants to know the parameters of the statement. What do we tell you about? Shtei kuba zubitzadzu. I tell you about where the two baskets are one next to each other. Shtei kuba zu agabzu, the two baskets are one on top of each other. In other words, the basket of good dates and the basket of bad dates. It says lo shania. There's no difference. Lo shania zubitzadzu. Lo shania. There's no distinction. He zubitzadzu. It's the same thing if one is next to each other. He zu agabzu, one is on top of each other. No difference. And in both cases they're exempt. The novlos are exempt even though they're being sold alongside the regular dates. When are the novlos chayav? B'muravos. When they're mixed in with the regular dates. And is that, so says more, okay, what about another parameter? Is actually tilusor or kshaloi tilusor? Sor literally means sourdough. But here dates get little cracks. Dates don't come smooth. They have nooks, peaks and valleys in them. So that's called hitilusor. So are the novels here perfectly round with no nooks and crannies in them? And nonetheless, when they're mixed into regular dates, they're chayiv in Demai. Do we say the nobles here talking about a case where specifically they too have nooks and crannies? It's just that they're not fully developed as the regular dates. What are we talking about here? How dissimilar can the nobles be from the other dates within which they're mixed and still be chayiv and meisers? Okay?
So Etilusor is a good thing?
Etilusor is a good thing, right. That's the maturity of a date, right? You don't buy dates which are perfectly round. They're not ripe yet. So that's the question. That has to be Etilusor or Kshol Etilusor. Rabbi Mona said, Ramona Amar, Etilusor anu chayam. We're talking about even the novelos had I guess the English translation should be wrinkles, where they had wrinkles in them. Says the more, wait a minute. If it's talking about Ksheitilusor, so then you bifnei atzon you chayavos. They have to be chayav on their own because they're good dates. They have the wrinkles. Leis yochel. You can't say that. Tam Rabbi Yochanan said they should rov aminim elu bos min hafker. These have to be dates which come from hefker. They're not just a little bit lesser grade, and if it has wrinkles, so it's just a little bit lesser grade. But to talk about things which people don't cultivate, they make them hefker. So it can't be talking about Ksheitilusor. Says the Gemara, Rabbi China Mark Shlo Tilusor Anu Kayamim. We're talking about where there is no sore in them. They have no wrinkles. So it says more in the other direction. Im Kshaloi Tilusor Afilu Muravos you Pturim. Even if it's talking about where there's no wrinkles in them, then even if they're mixed in, they should be exempt. They're not really edible. They're certainly afker. So it's
not really Muravos.
You can tell the difference between them. So leis yochel, that can be it. Can't be it. It's either. Says more no. To Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi Mishum Avi, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi said the name of his father. This is a case, in fact, where Muravos works. How so? Where do we have similar precedent to this? Because it says Eshkol Shabikar Bo Gargir Yechidi, a cluster in which one grape is already ripe. Kulo Chibur LeMaisros. The entire thing is Chayv and Maisros. So yes, Muravos does make a difference. It's true that that's a different case, right? That's a cluster with many grapes on it. But the Gemara says there's a commonality between the two things. Just like where a cluster, where one grape is ripe, makes the entire cluster Chayv and Maisros, so too here, where you have mixed together ripe dates and non-ripe dates, the ripe ones make the non-ripe ones Chayv and Maiser, even if they're lo itilusor, even if they're not yet mature. Okay?
And they didn't grow together.
They didn't grow together, they just got mixed in afterwards, right? That's why the case is not exactly... You're right, it's not exactly similar, obviously. Right, the cluster of grapes is one cluster, but we're drawing a parallel. We say that that's sufficient precedent to say this. Says Rabbi Yossi Rabun Amar, that Rabbi Zera Amar, that Rabbi Zera and Rabbi Chila had a machlokes. Chad Amar Kodein, one said that it's about Ksheitilusor. Chad Amar Kodein, that it's Kshaloi Tilusor. V'chachomim lo k'divrei zu. It's not like either of them. Ella, rather, and here I think also there's a tikkun in the Girsa. Afilu. Just a second. Ella, yeah. Here the Gra changes it. Ella, instead of afilu, changes it to ilu. Takes out the pay, right? Ella ilu. Elu. Sorry, not ilu. Elu she tilusar chayavos, elu shaloi tilusar peturos. Right? If they had their metilsor, they're chayav, and if they're not metilsor, they're potter, and even if they're muravos, it makes no difference, which is really, in line with what you would want to pass. Okay? So it really has to do with heitilusor and not heitilusor. Vagufnin. It says here in the Mishnah, getting back to our Mishnah, it said gufnin are fruit which is chayav in demai in Galil, and the Mishnah said it's only exempt in Yehuda. The Mishnah didn't mention Galil, but the Mishnah said Hagufni vanitzpe b'Yehuda. They're chayev in what? No, I'm sorry. Gufni and Uvnitzpe are exempt, right? Yehuda Og v'Chometz are also exempt. I'm sorry. So Gufni and Nitzpe are exempt, and Yehuda Og and Chometz are also exempt. Sorry. So what are Gufni? So says the Gemara. Now hear the line. Here there's obviously something wrong with the gear. So I don't know exactly what, and he doesn't fix it in a way which makes me satisfied. But Hagufdin Shemira. Gufdin are in Galil are considered to be safeguarded. Okay, it doesn't say Galil, but again, as I say, the gears is messed up. In Galil, Shmira at the Gufin are chayev in the Mai because they're raised, cultivated. Ma ben Yudah ben Galil. Well, how do we know? Ma here means how do we know? This is between Yehuda and Galil. Min ma de maslin le mesal. From that which they give a mashal. They used to have a mashal. What was the mashal used to have? Biglila. They used to say have a mashal in the Galil. Shomera. What does the word shomera mean? Shamar mora. That the master who grows such crops watches them. Nonetheless, this is all part of the mashal used to say in Galil. Man masalachim tavlaya. Even though your master watches you, who would draw an analogy between you and regular herbs? So since even though they said people watch them, nonetheless, they're not a madreg of herbs, hadamara, this disparaging attitude towards the Shumera gave them the status of being exempt from Demai and Galil. Hadamara teaches us that Begalil Potter of Yehuda, where they didn't have the same disparaging attitude, chayav. Now, Kuzbara, which is also mentioned in our Mishnah, is Kuzbarto in Aramaic. And Ma ben Yehuda go, what is between Yehuda and Galil by the terms of Kuzbarto? Mimad maslich loch misal bidroma. They used to have a mashal for the Kuzbara in the south. Kuzbara, Kuzbarto. Man maslichim tavlaya. Kuzbara, Kuzbarto. Nonetheless, who's going to compare you with herbs? That's what you used to say in the south, in Yehuda, about Kuzbarta. So Hadamra, this teaches us that Begalil, where they didn't have this disparaging attitude towards Kuzbarta, Chayev is Kuzbarta's Chayev in Demai. Over Yehuda, however, it's exempt from Demai. Why? Again, because in Yehuda they were disparaging towards it, so it was a lower madrega. It wasn't nishmar to the same extent as a classic fruit, which would be Mechayev in Demai.
It's a masala like similar to the word a masala that like it's like
an excuse.
Is that a masala an excuse?
Yeah, it's a excuse. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they're related. They're both Aramaic. But so an amasla probably comes from misal, but here metal is like a mashal. The shin and tov are very often interchangeable. Torah in Aramaic is shor in Hebrew, right? So the shin and tov are interchangeable. Tani we learned. Rabbi Yehuda said, originally, vinegar in Yehuda was exempt from maitzrus. Why? Because they didn't used to make vinegar from wine in Yehuda. How? Why not? They would keep their wine pure, and they also would not let it ferment because they needed it because of linische for nesachin. So they wouldn't allow wine to ferment in Yehuda. So they make vinegar from grape skins and from grape pits, mead. During Beis Hamikdash, right? So at that point, it was exempt from mices because pits and grape skins are not chayim mices, not considered ochel. Right here, so it's, again, I saw the middle sentence. Shosim yenim b'tara, they make their wine b'tara for loya machmitz. They wouldn't allow it to become vinegar to ferment. V'yimevin minat temed. They would make vinegar only from temed, from the pits and skins. Now, however, that wine is allowed to become vinegar, so now their wine is chayv and meisers as well. This seems to be an exchange of Rabbi Shita elsewhere. No, it seems to be a contradiction. To Tzina Tamon we load over there. If somebody made this mead, which is that you put water into the pits and skins, and when you took it out, it was the same amount of water. Potter is exempt from Trumas. Right? Because we know it gets the time of the pits and skins, and the pits and skins are chayiv and maisris, v'koa marachain, and here he says that the pits and skins are exempt from maisris, so it's a contradiction. My Rebbe Law said no. It's interesting how these things could change over time. Originally, grapes were prevalent, so therefore pits were not choshev. Therefore, they weren't nishmar. Therefore, they're exempt from Trumas and Maisros, right? Even Vadai, because we pass on like Rabbi Yochanan. In these cases, it's not nishmar. It's even exempt from Vadai, right? Now that there aren't so many grapes anymore, now chaytzanim chashuvos. Now people are shomer their pits, and therefore pits now have a loch being chayv and Maisros. Okay? Rabbi Huna Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah said that Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the kasha. Doesn't this argument of Shimon Lakish that what you just learned? Because here we see that by Nishma, if it's not Nishma, it's exempt from Vada even, right? Not just from Demai. You don't need Tarti Liti Vusa, right? So, Gemara doesn't answer. Taka. It's a difficulty on Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Now the Gemara goes on to another thing. The Mishnah said that Rimei Shikma are exempt from Demai. But I asked the Gemara a very practical question, a question based on reality of trade. Yes, okay, Rimei Shikma or Chayv. I said Rimei Shikma or Chayv or Potter. It said Kol Rimei Potter Pturim Chutz Mi Rimei Shikma. Right? So Rimei Shikma, it's true that Rimei Shikma are the Rimim of a certain place. But all the other Rimim in Eretz Yisrael are Chayv in the mind. So let the Rimim of the other place of Eretz Yisrael be Mevatel, these Rimim. Because even in Shikma, they used to import the Rimim, whatever they are, figs or something else from other places in Eretz Yisrael as well. Therefore you, Pturin, should be exempt. I can't imagine the Rimim are figs, by the way. They actually have a kahati here in English. Let's see how he translates.
Mixed them together, not anything, just under what circumstances, why would we
what?
Because we're saying that the
Rome Rimin in Eretz Yisrael are, here it says Rimin are wild figs. Shitim it says, no. Shitim it says are wild figs. Rimin are jujube fruit. Uzdarin are crab apples. Bno shoch are wild white figs. Og is whatever. Those of them types. So he says here again that Rimin and Shikma are choshev. So they're nishma. So therefore they should be chayiv in the mind. So now the question is, okay, but that's Rimins which are specific to Shikma. What about, but in Shikma they had other figs. Other Rimin, other jujube fruit was not nishmar, and it comes into the town. So therefore it should be mevatel those, okay? So, you call Rimim, it should be, Arimei Shikma, v'yu pturin. So even at Shikma, the Rimim should be exempt. So Rabbi Yossi departed Ramokim Sharom Mishamin. This is a case where most people, there is no imported fruits, and Rov are Mishamin, so therefore, there's the type of fruit which is Chayiv at the Mai. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi boy, Vein Kon Lefanecha. You know what? I guess I introduced what's later before, and I apologize, because I introduced the next line more. When the word asks Yubal Kori Monim Rimei Shikma, the Gemara is just asking about Batish question. That it should be bought, though, that place should be bought, though. Yeah, just go Basar Rov. And then the Gemara answers, you can't go Basar Rov, because in this place, Rov Rimin are Nishmar. Then the Gemara asked the Kasha as I presented it. Now Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi boy, Vein Kol Mefanecha, isn't the whole world in front of you? V'yubu Korim Shabom Arimi Osamakav Yupturin. So let's input we know because of the importing trade, so it should be exempt, right? So therefore it should be exempt altogether. So the Gemara doesn't answer that question. Gemara just leaves it short. Okay, I guess in the Metzius and the Mishnah was talking about was the case where the Rimei Shikma were Taka not Batel Baro, because in that place they grew them specifically. Okay, halacha base. Hadmai ein lo chomesh vein lo bir. Demai has no chomesh. It doesn't. When you have to take Meiser Sheni off of Demai, but when you redeem the Meiser Sheni Demai, you don't tack on a chomesh. Vein lo bir, and you're not responsible every third year to bring up to Sholayim, right? To clean out the mites of the previous 3 years. V'nechol oinen, even though the regular Meiser Sheni cannot be eaten by an onen, this Meiser Sheni Demai may. Even though regular Meiser Sheni, once it enters Yerushalayim, cannot leave Yerushalayim. What?
It's not eaten by an onen.
No, it has to be eaten by Simcha. So it can't be eaten by an onen or obviously by an ovel. However, here we'll see about avelim. It only says an onen kid and not an ovel. The Gemara is going to pick up on that. Okay. If you lose a little bit along the way, it's nishka fairlach. And he came with the Amoritz, even though we normally would not give Meiser Sheni to Amoritz because we're afraid he won't eat it B'tahara and he won't eat it properly in Yerushalayim. This, it's the Mai, we're allowed to give to an Amoritz. You just should eat fruit corresponding to that fruit which you gave to Amoritz in Yerushalayim. So you can redeem it kesef al kesef. Normally, once you redeem Meiser Sheni on silver, you can't redeem it subsequently on silver. You have to buy back food with it. But here, since Meiser Sheni is Mai, you can redeem silver on silver. So once to silver coins for other silver coins, choshes and copper on copper, and kesef choshes and silver on copper, with choshes on peiros and fruit on choshes on peiros. And then use the choshes to redeem other peiros. Divrei Meir. Oh no, you can redeem the pairs the second time around. Sorry. You redeem the pairs the second time around, even after you bought pairs with them, you can redeem those pairs. No, if you bought a second time fruit, that fruit has to be taken to Shalayim. And then what I assume is going to discuss it. Says the Gemara, now according to the Mashbiach, the whole Gemara is messed up here. But I don't know. It reads. Let's see. Says the Gemara, wait a minute. It sounds like Dafka Demai doesn't have the halacha biur. Lo Yochanan Kohen Gadol didn't write Yochanan Kohen Gadol eradicate the vidui meiser for all meiser, even meiser vade. Now vidui meiser is what it says in Parshas Ki. Sit closer. Vidui meiser is Parsha. It says in Parshas Kisava. Whenever you bring the meiser every 3 years, you have to say Biarti HaKodesh Min HaBayis, the whole business, Lo Achalti Boni Mimenu, Lo Avarti Mitzasecha V'Shachachti. Right, when you're an owning. So that's my. So Yochanan Kohen Gadol said they shouldn't say this tefillah anymore. They shouldn't say it because he said he held them by most people as the why. Most people in his time already Ramaratzim. So a lot of them were not so makpid on the halachos of Meiser Sheni. So therefore, people shouldn't be saying this tefillah. People shouldn't be saying vidui Meiser. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Yochanan Kohen Gadol eradicate the concept of vidui Meiser saying this tefillah even by regular stuff, even by regular Meisers. So why is saying it's limited only to Demai? Says the Gemara. He made it according that they shouldn't say vidui meiser by regular meiser. But by regular meiser, he couldn't take away the din Torah that every 3 years you have to bring it up to Yerushalayim. He could seal your lips. He could say sheva al taisa, but he don't say anything. But he would still have to bring the meiser up to Yerushalayim every 3 years. for the past 3 years. So our Mishnah say that you don't even have to do that by Demai. You can wait till whenever time it's feasible and then bring it up to Yerushalayim. It says Gemara, Ubevadai. So that biur is only by Vatai Bismanase. How about Demai ain't Tzarech Levar? Okay. Tani, it says Necha Ba'anina. Ve'eno Necha B'Tuma. However, it sounds like you cannot eat it when you're tummy. Now, Tuma is a little bit difficult. I believe here the Pnei Moshe says Tuma means during Shiva. No, my mistake. So about Tuma Mamish. He said it says that you can't eat during Anidas, but you can eat it during Anidas, but not when you're tummy. What's the difference? People are tummy all the time, and therefore it's a milsa de shchicha. Anino ain't a mitzuya. It's very rare that people are on onanim. In other words, that they're avelim, and therefore ain't a mitzuya. It's not so prevalent. Gozru al davar shu matzui. They said the mai should be makbi not to eat it when you're tummy, which is prevalent. The lo gozru davar sheni matzui. They say don't have to be makbi on ma'aser sheni of the mai when it's when not to eat baninus, which is not prevalent because that's a milsa lo shchicha, a non-prevalent thing. Lo goes by Rabbanan didn't decree against it. Rabbi Yossi always said a fascinating thing. Said afilu kasafik tevel or asur. Demai is not even like something which is safek tevel. How so? Ilu b'safek tevel. If you have something which you're not sure if it's tevel or not, safek nitkan. Right, you're not sure if it's tevel, if it's untight, or it's been tight. Maishna safek Meiser Sheni safek lo nitkan shema eno asur luzonen. So in that case, when he take off the Meiser Sheni, he's safek. Again, this is the case where you're not sure if it's tight or not. And you take off the Meiser Sheni from the suffix that was lo niskan, shema eno asur loinen. Do you think it's not asur to no name? Of course it's asur for a no name. So if you have a suffix, whether this was tight or not, and then you take off Meiser Sheni, that's asur lo name. But here by Demai, it's mutter lo name. By the way, in our day and age, all fruit which grows in Eretz Yisrael, generally speaking, is not Demai. It's suffix. My safek tevel, because Demai means a scenario where most Amaratim take off Meiser, and all of them take off Truma, and Chazal made a takona nonetheless to regard it as Demai and be machmir and take off Meisers. But in Eretz Yisrael nowadays, those people who don't take off Meisers don't take off Truma either. And there is no rove of people who take off Meiser. So our stuff nowadays in Eretz Yisrael is safek tevel, not Demai. Okay, so we see here that safek tevel is more severe, and that's why safek tevel you're not allowed to eat the Meiser Sheni from that as a no-name. Says the Gemara, Tamot today we learned over there, Hatruma of Hatrumas Meiser Shel Demai, that Truma, I forgot what this means. Give me a second.
Therefore, then really you gotta leave it there until the matter is right.
Oh, okay, got it. It says over there that if you eat Trumas Meiser of Demai, the Mishnah is missing, so the Gemara is missing something. It says over there if you eat the Trumas Meiser of Demai, you have to add on a fifth. The halacha is if I, a Zor, eat Truma, when I make restitution to the Kohen, I have to give him the principal plus an added fifth. So Gemara has a kasha. Here, if you eat Truma of Demai, Trumas Meiser of Demai, you add on the fifth and give it to the Kohen. But here, when you redeem Meiser Sheni of Demai, where the Torah also said add on a fifth, it doesn't say, it says explicitly that when you eat Meiser Sheni, when you redeem Meiser Sheni of Demai, you don't have to add on the fifth. So why when a Zor eats the Truma from Demai, he does have to add on the fifth? And over here, where it's Meiser Sheni of Demai, which he's redeeming, he doesn't have to add on the 5th. What's the difference? So again, let's see inside Tamot Tninan, Hachuma Vachumas Meiser Shel Demai, you have to add on the 5th. Vachat Amarachenu, you don't have to add on the 5th. Rabbi Zer said Tamot Tninan, Chumas Meiser Shel Demai. There, it's Chumas Meiser Shel Demai. But here it's Meiser Sheni Shel Demai. It's a very cryptic answer. What exactly he means to say by this? So I'm not sure. I'm just going to give a hard. The Pnei Moshe doesn't make it very clear. Let me just see what he says here.
You've read the Kasha of the Mishnah, Mistal, right? Our question of Shai is what the guy leaves it there, and anyone who wants to take it, Rob says that you can't do that.
He doesn't. He says the Gemara is going to explain it later on. All right, we'll see what the Gemara explains. Gemara basically didn't give an answer. Rabbi Ami said that Eina Mishnah Zos Yotzeis Yudei Trumas Meiser Shel Demai. This Mishnah, a similar idea. This Mishnah is only Trumas Meiser Shel Demai. My Kadon. What's the distinction? Well, how do you learn it? Tamon Rabbi Meir. That's going to learn Rabbi Meir, who's more makbid. Bramacha Rabbani. It's going to learn Rabbi Rabbana. And the Pnei Moshe and the other Mefarshim go through how Rabbi Meir is more makbid than Rabbana. Let's not get into that now. Says the word Rabbi Zera Amar B'Shem Rabbanon. Rabbi Zera said a different answer in the name of the rabbis, other rabbis. B'dino Yod the Trumas Ma'aser Shel Demai Shlefish Lovis Chomesh. The truth is that even by Trumas Meiser of Demai, if he ate it, you shouldn't have to pay the extra 5th to the Kohen. For Lo Mar Mushiafish, why they say you give the extra 5th? Mivnei Gedera, because of an offense, which also could be a Gzera, decree. Shimat Oimer Lo Shalo Yafish, if you say he doesn't have to add on the 5th over there, he's not going to treat it as holy. In other words, if you tell him, if you eat the Trumas Meiser of mine, you don't have to add on a 5th. So he's going to mock it. He's going to say it's not real Trumas Meiser. However, here the Sfora is the opposite. Here really you should add on a 5th. For why they say don't add on a 5th to redeem it? Also Nekedero. Also for offense. You're going to tell him to set aside a 5th. Is going to say, you know what? It's only a Demai. I have to pay an extra 5th. Where's the justice? Forget it. I'm not redeeming this Meiser Sheni at all. So therefore, we have to make sure he's going to take off the Trumas Meiser. How do we make sure that he's going to take off the Trumas the Meiser Sheni and redeem it? How do we know he's going to take off the Meiser Sheni and redeem it? Only if we may say you don't have to add on the 5th. No, it's the same punishment. Both make tevel. The thing is like this. Again, by Trumas Meiser, I say the reason why I made him give a chomesh if a zor eats from the Trumas Meiser of the Demai is that he should have the proper attitude towards kedusha. We're not afraid a guy's not going to take off Trumas Meiser because it's not a redeemable commodity anyway. So he figures it's for follow, right? So he's not going to pay attention to it. It's not going to. The only thing we're afraid of is on the contrary. There's not going to be knowing enough kedusha in it. However, the Meiser Sheni of Demai, which is a redeemable commodity, there we're afraid if we make him pay too much, he's not going to redeem it. So if we say to him, you know what, only pay a 5th, and that way you don't have to you redeem it at face value. That's the incentive for him to redeem it. But once you brought that up, it could be that's as far as well what you're saying. That in fact we know why the Amaratim take off truma of their fruits, because although they're incorrect, they're wrong. They think the Amaratim that truma is more of an impediment to eating it than meiser. Because truma, we know if a zor eats it, it's chayiv kares, whereas the meiser, if a zor eats it, there's no chiyuv. So therefore, the Amorit's mind, they think truma is more essential to be tight than meiser is. So that's why it takes a truma, not meiser. So it could be that's svara, even though it's wrong. Lemaisa, tevel from which Truma is not taken off, and tevel from which Maisa has not been taken off are equally bad. But it could be you're right. That's as far here as well. Truma's Meiser, we know a guy's going to take off of Demai, because he's more afraid of Truma erroneously. But he himself is more afraid of Truma. So therefore, what's our concern over there? That he's not going to keep it holy. So therefore we say to make sure he knows it's holy, we add on a fifth. But Meiser Sheni, we're afraid he might not take off altogether. Erroneously again, because he thinks it's not as important. So therefore to make sure he takes it off, we give him an incentive, we say take it off and redeem it, and you don't have to add on a chomish and redeem it. Very good. Okay, that fits in well. Okay, we'll stop here for tonight.